With that, I think I'd like to introduce the first presentation of the morning. Adam Garr from Course Cares. When we do these planning meetings back in December, trying to figure out what might work best and bring a crowd and be the most informative presentations possible, a number of people did suggest Adam Garr and his company Course Cares. And I know there's some of you in the room that work with Adam, but if you haven't seen some of the videos and content that he and his team put together, it is pretty impressive and funny. So glad to have him here. You can win the hearts and minds of your members if your message hits the right tone. In this session, Adam is going to address closing vital communication gaps, creating a unified voice, and how to advocate for the golf course in a way that gets results. Adam created Course Cares to help clubs better communicate with their members with educational videos. Before that, he was a golf course superintendent at Plum Hollow Country Club in Detroit. He was one of the first superintendents in the country to start video blogging and use drones on the golf course. Today, Adam wants to share some of his insights on how some of the best clubs in the country are communicating to their members in 2026. So to start us off this morning, Adam Garr.
All right. Make sure we're on the right one here. All right, thanks. Thank you, Kevin, for the intro. I told him I wrote that when I was stuck in traffic yesterday. It's true. I had a lot of time on the expressway in New Jersey. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about, the message that you're delivering to your membership through your communications. There's a lot of different ways we can do that now. I'm going to talk about what I'm seeing some of the best clubs do these days. And it's good to see a few friendly faces in the room. There's been a few of you on the other side of my camera in the past, so I see a few rock stars out there. So we're going to kind of talk about a little bit about what I do and what I see other superintendents and clubs starting to do with video. That's becoming bigger and bigger. It's such a visual world now, so it's just a great way to communicate with your members. So really what I want to focus on today is the need to control the message. And I'm going to kind of draw off some of the things I've seen in my travels, but also some of my own experiences. Like a lot of you, I've learned things the hard way a lot of times, so I'm going to share some of that with you. I'm going to talk about the importance of finding your voice and creating a consistent voice for your club. We'll kind of do an overview of how some clubs are shifting communication approaches in 2026. There's some interesting trends that I don't think will surprise anyone, but there are some definite trends starting to happen in private clubs. And then I want to focus on, really that trying to win the hearts and minds of your members, because that's any good communication should be not just sharing the information, but you should be kind of pushing your agenda along, or trying to sell a project, or trying to sell a renovation to your members. So with that being said, a little bit about me. So I always like to say I'm an English teacher that ended up in turf by accident. I think like a lot of you, this profession found me and not the other way around. I was 2 years from becoming a high school English teacher. I have an English degree from the University of Michigan, and I just happened to get a summer job on a golf course when I was, in a teaching program. About 3 months of that, I decided, I can do turf. I just need a 2-year associate's degree, so I kind of switched career paths. Working on a golf course, being out in nature, kind of being your own boss. And that creative side of me, having the ability to kind of step back and admire your work every day, was a big draw for me. And over the years, being able to tie in that English background and the writing, and it ended up leading the video, which I do not have any background in video. I'm all self-taught. So it's just kind of evolved over the years. I ended up leaving the golf course in 2015. I worked for Syngenta for about 8 years. I was the territory rep of Michigan. for about 8 years. And the one thing, like the COVID year, kind of the light bulb went off for me, because I'm going around and every superintendent I'm talking to is telling me the same thing. I cannot find people. This golf course is getting beat up, and the members are questioning every single thing I do out here. Airification, top dress. Why do we need new sand in the bunkers? Why are you spending all this money? So like that light bulb went off because I kept hearing the same thing over and over and over. And I kind of like went back to my past as a superintendent and a blogger and starting to do video communications. And I decided, well, why don't I just take this leap and help other superintendents communicate that message to their members. So that's how I created Course Cares. And I think today I'm pretty close to 100 clubs all over the country in 20 states. So, and that's just been 2.5 years. So this thing's really starting to take off. It's exciting. It's, you know, being able to help people, that is my goal, you know, and celebrate the profession, bring other people into it, you know, because it's a pretty special industry we're in, and it's really cool. And there's some great people. So that's a little bit about my history, what brings me here today. But I want to talk to you about my origin story, because I think everybody has one. Every good hero villain has an origin story. Here's mine. Back in 2010, we were airifying greens like everybody does after Labor Day. And we had that perfect storm of weather where we healed up in like 3 days. It was like, you're looking at the extended forecast and it's like more of the same. So we decided as a team, we have an opportunity, we close Monday, we could sneak in a smaller airification, less invasive, get some more sand in there, and nobody will ever know. So that's what we ended up doing. Well, that afternoon, a member came out to putting green at lunchtime, and he had seen like the disruption. You know, there had been no communication from us. We were kind of winging it. It was Monday, we were closed, right? So there was a caddy there, because caddies try to sneak in free golf on Mondays, and he asked the caddy, you guys just aerated, why are you doing it again? You know, the member didn't know that the caddy wasn't with us. And the caddy said, they didn't do it right the first time. So that was like my career-defining quote right there. They didn't do it right the first time by a random caddy. Within 3 hours, my phone was blowing up, and I had about 10 emails and a meeting with my general manager at 7 a.m. the next day. Because he didn't work Mondays. But it created a firestorm. And shame on me for not communicating it with my Greens Committee. We just called an audible that day. But it was very illuminating for the fact that I learned that day that if the information is not out there, if it's not available and it's not from you, then somebody else is probably filling in those blanks for you or making assumptions, right? So everybody in here probably has a home lawn. You know, there's a lot of members and a lot of clubs with home lawns, and everybody seems to be an expert. You know, just like there's never frost on their lawn, they show up on the golf course, there's frost. That's why you as the expert and you as a Greens Committee need this information, need to be the ones putting that out there, because that locker room, you really need to win that locker room to be successful long term. You need everybody, your Greens Committee is if you're the quarterback as a superintendent, that Greens Committee is your offensive line. You need them equipped with the tools and the talking points, because they're fighting those battles for you in the trenches, battles you don't even know about. And you need those guys doing that for you. So that was kind of the light bulb for me. I need to control that narrative, because as a superintendent, who do I want telling my story? Do I want it to be me and my assistants, or do I want some random caddy kind of telling the story for us? So that was a big one for me. And the fact is, members just want to know what's going on. to differing degrees. Some members really want to deep dive on this stuff, but I think your average, broad stroke, people just kind of don't want surprises. They just want to know what's happening. And having some perspective now that I'm not a superintendent and kind of seeing this from all different angles, just the fact that people don't like surprises. If you're a member of the club, you might be bringing a guest. You really want to impress them with your club. And if you show up and the tee markers are kicked off and there's a bunch of plugs on the first tee, that kind of like, it's a surprise. And if you got the tee off in a little 3-foot shovel off section, it's not sending the best message to your guest that day. If you knew ahead of time, you'd be able to give your guest a little heads up, or you'd reschedule it or something like that. Or if you're playing a match and they top dress greens, these are kind of big deals for people. So they just want to know what's going on. So that kind of caddy-driven moment led me to creating a blog. And I think I kicked that off in the new year. Through my tenure, I left in 2015, so in about 4 years, I had probably close to 1 million page views on this thing. But it wasn't just the fact that it went viral, it was being consistent with it. I updated my blog in season at least twice a week. And that was, sometimes it was just a quick update, like a picture, like, hey, we flooded today, we're going to be carp restricted. Other times it was more of a deep dive on why we're top dressing, why we need to, we have bad river waters or irrigation, so we need to overcome that with sand. I think at least in the last 5 years, these blogs are basically becoming extinct, which is really sad because it's such a powerful tool, and I'd love to at least inspire a few of you to commit to starting one this year or resurrecting one, because it's such a great way to communicate to your members almost in real time. It's right from you. You're able to control the message 100% if your club gives you that flexibility like mine did. I was in charge of the blog. It was all on me. And there were a couple times I'd get a call at 10 o'clock at night, like, dude, you got to take that down. It only happened a couple times, but it did happen. Heat of the moment, you get a little defensive. But there's no better, it's a living history of your facility. If like most members just want to know what's going on that day or that week, or maybe in the next couple weeks, you're going to get a few nerds that go back in time and want to know, what was going on this time 3 years ago, and that information can be there if you're consistent with it. It was a great way to really just keep the members informed, showcase the team. That was another big thing for me. There was, I had 20 people on staff that nobody even knew their names. Nobody knew who they were, what they did. They just assumed that guy just cuts greens and he leaves. That guy is leaving because he's got another job. He's a school teacher, like kind of filling in those blanks and showcasing the staff. So that was big. But my tip to you, the other thing with the blog, especially, and before this, I was doing email newsletters or email updates. And a lot of times, I would get it done, I'd send it to the GM, and it would sit on his desk for like a week or 10 days before it went out to the members. Or it'd come back to me for, I forgot to send this out, can you change this because this already happened? Like, the nice thing about a blog is I can write it that day and send it out that day or schedule it to go out in the morning. The members could sign up for updates. So if I updated it, boom, they've got it in their inbox right away. The thing I tell these clubs, and the reason why, your ballmark email, your, greens update newsletter isn't getting a lot of traction is a lot of these clubs, you don't know how many emails they're sending out. A lot of these clubs are sending 10 out a day, and it's ridiculous. You know, hey, don't forget the Fish Fry Friday, we got an Easter egg hop, all this stuff. You don't know how many emails these members are getting. Your email is in there somewhere and it's getting lost. So I created this blog. It came from me. You know, it came from Plum Hollow Greens Committee or Greens Department. So it's not coming as a club communication. So I just like that. And we had about 300 members, and I think about 150 of them were signed up to receive our updates. And it took time to get them there, but I just want to create a culture where everybody kind of knew what was going on and they heard it from us. Over the years, I mean, this is a screenshot of some of my blog posts. This one I think is in German. It was a different time, okay? Like, I shared a lot of this stuff publicly on social media because part of it was I was kind of at one of those clubs in Detroit that's kind of like a dead-end job, and I still had aspirations to move on to like a higher level club. So I was kind of using this blog as like, you know, kind of to get noticed and get some attention. But my advice to you now, especially in light of our current climate and environment, is keep this stuff in-house. Keep it private. Nobody else needs to know if you're top dressing greens tomorrow. There's only 300 people who need to know that. You don't need to share it with the whole world. You know, if it's something that can really help people benefit, maybe you've got a life perspective you want to share, that's different. But really, I think your focus should be good communications, fact-based communications, and really educating the Greens Committee, because they're fighting the battles in the trenches for you. They're battles you don't want to fight, and they're conversations you don't want to have. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. So how are you keeping it private?
You can, if you create a blog externally, you can unlist it like a YouTube channel. You can unlist it, you can keep a YouTube channel private and just share that link with your membership. And hope that they don't share it to anybody else. Or you can create, I think there's settings to where you have to accept, like, you know, John Smith at Plum Hollow sent a request to follow your page, and you can approve them. I would go that route, because this stuff starts getting out. It was a different world back then. It was much more supportive, and, you know, people were using this at other clubs to help demonstrate why we need to top dress. You know, they're using my blog to sell things to members. It just doesn't work that way anymore. It's too combative. And plus, people don't listen anymore. Everybody's too busy talking. You know, we're not doing as good of a job of listening. So I just don't, I think club business should remain club business, you know, for the most part. You know, I think there's times you can go broad, like if you're trying to get an intern or an assistant, hey, share that blog with them, like, hey, here's a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. This is what you'd be coming into. You know, this is what we can do for you. But there's nobody else needs to know you guys are gonna aerate greens tomorrow. You know, I keep that kind of stuff in-house. Yeah, I would definitely do it differently now. I wouldn't, you know, because I kind of created some problems for myself locally, because the club up the street, because I was the guy, one of the first guys blogging about maintenance practices, the club up the street had members asking him, why aren't you doing this? So I started getting some flack from my peers, like, dude, you just made me have to start a blog. Because my members are reading your blog and they're asking me, why aren't we doing this? So I have like some regrets about it, but 90% of it was positive. So with blogging, any type of communication, email, newsletter, meeting with your Greens Committee, I think the key is to be consistent. You're going to want to keep almost everything positive, even bad news. try to find a positive spin to it if you flood out. All right, but here's what we're doing to fix it. Okay, so like try to put a positive spin on things. Leave the emotion out of it. You don't want that 10 o'clock phone call saying, take that down. That's not cool. So avoid those kind of things. Don't start writing an email or writing a blog post after you just saw somebody put sunscreen on their legs on the green. Like just give yourself some time. Try to keep your club's business off of social media. I wouldn't communicate to members at all on social media. I know some people do it. Twitter is not the Twitter it was 10 years ago. It's different now, and you don't know who has access to this information. You don't know where it's going, who's seeing it, what they're doing with it. I wouldn't communicate any of that on social media anymore. With blogging, it doesn't have to be the next great American novel. It can be simple, and I think that's best. Keep things surface level. If you want to go deeper, put a USG green section link in there, and if whoever wants to learn more about top dressing greens can click on that, and there's resources there. So I think that's, it doesn't need to be this huge time suck. It can be really easy. Just pictures and a brief summary, and I've never used them, but there are a lot of AI-driven tools now that will even help you write this stuff. So you can just give it a few prompts, and it can spit out, a 2-paragraph summary for you if time's a factor. And with any kind of communicating, I would just avoid making any promises you can't deliver on, something that might end up biting you 5 years down the road that's in print somewhere. I would just try to avoid that kind of stuff. But what I learned as a superintendent was communication was my most valuable tool. You think about the interactions you have every day. You're talking to members and guests, your board of directors, Greens Committee, kind of on down the line. And you interact with them all a little bit differently, right? And I'll use the example of a tree removal, which is arguably probably the most controversial topic on a golf course. You would talk about cutting a tree down a little differently to Mr. and Mrs. Smith than you would your Greens Committee. Your Greens Committee needs the facts. They need kind of a deep dive on, why that tree is creating shade and why that shade is detrimental to your bentgrass green. That's a deep dive. Your blog can be more of a surface level, or if you got to send a newsletter out about the 20 missing trees, here's why we did it. If you want if you want to hear more about it, ask your Greens Committee. I would kind of deflect some of that off to your committee, because it really takes a team. It takes a team. The superintendent can't do this all themselves. So everybody's kind of got to be on board with it, create a unified message, and just understand you're not going to please everyone. If you're making 75% of people happy, you're doing good. You're doing good. You get around that 50% mark, it gets a little dicey. But you just want more on your side than are against you, and you just want to be honest and give people honest answers to honest questions. Try to leave that emotion out of it. Let that Greens Committee fight your battles. And that's a great way to control your message. Again, to social media, if your blog is out there and it's just going around wherever, you don't know who's seeing it, you've lost control of your message. It's just out there. AI's using it to generate stuff for somebody else. You've lost it. So that's why I think it's just really important to kind of keep this stuff in-house. It's really easy to communicate and be seen when things are going good. Everybody appreciates a pat on the back or an attaboy. Those are easy times. Those are good times to be seen. But but it's a little bit tougher to communicate and be seen when things are not going good. And there are times like these, right, where you're dealing with an uncertainty, like a win or kill event, or you just get a mold going crazy overnight. That's why, 2014, we lost half our greens to win or kill. And we knew it was gonna happen. We had 3 inches of ice on greens for 120 days. Though that was a tough year, but men's league, Tuesday nights, we hit 10 greens. I'd make sure I was on that first tee and say hi to everybody. I mean, I didn't want to be there, to be honest. It was tough, but I think the fact that I was willing to be there, I was communicating how we're getting greens back, what our plan was. I was regularly sending them messages on my blog. There was a lot more, I think, respect and I think understanding. And, I even had members coming up to me like, hey, hang in there. Do you need anything from me? Like on a personal level, because they all knew what we were going through. We were kind of all in that boat together. So why did I go from blog to video? And I think the reason why was because I got tired of, when you write something, you send a letter out, you put a sign out on a golf course, you're kind of telling people, right? I wanted to start showing people. I wanted my members to understand. I wanted them to see what it looked like on that golf course at 6 a.m. And I wasn't able to do that with pictures or blog or a newsletter. I wanted them to be on the team for 5 minutes at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I just saw advantages to doing video, blogging, video updates, as a way of showing them instead of telling. I also saw it as an opportunity to really start educating them in a new way, a more interactive, kind of attention-grabbing way. And honestly, I wanted to just show the faces of the people they never saw. My team, who are busting their butts every single day for not a lot of money. I kind of wanted to give them their due, their day in the sun. So that's why I started doing video. And this was back in 2013, so I wasn't the first, but I was probably one of the first to really start. I put a GoPro on every piece of equipment, and somehow or another it made its way out there. And we're trying. My goal was to show something nobody's ever seen before. So this is an example of one of my early blog posts, and just to demonstrate the power of video versus blogging, because one of the things I was really pushing for as a superintendent of tree removals, we're one of those clubs that have been around 100 years, and sometime in the 50s, some member decided, we need pines behind every green. I need that backdrop when I'm 200 yards out. I need to see the goalposts. I was the guy trying to cut all those pines down. So anytime I removed a tree or got one removed, it wasn't enough to win that battle. I like to follow up afterwards and kind of show people the difference. So this is a green we took out, a tree we took out right next to a green. I wanted to show the members a side-by-side difference of the shade, in the morning sun. And I set a GoPro on a time lapse the day we cut the tree down and the day after, just to show the difference. Kind of to reinforce, I'm not making this stuff up. And that green ended up doing a lot better after we took that tree out. So that's something video can do for you that blog, communication, email update cannot do. We see a lot of golf course signs. I call it clutter. It's just, because it doesn't work. You know, you put a sign that says, fix your ball marks. Does anybody fix their ball marks because they saw a sign? I don't think so. Because think about your daily life. Like when you leave here and drive home today, look at how many signs you see, you know, on your way home. There's a million, they're everywhere. And they're all telling you what not to do. So you get on a golf course, you just want to relax, you're with your friends, you're drinking alcohol, you're not going to read the sign. So I've always you know, get this stuff off of the golf course. It doesn't work anyway. It's just clutter. It's just something you guys have to move when you're mowing. Start educating people behind the scenes before they ever get on that first tee. Start educating, getting them trained mentally. I gotta fix my ball marks today. They're probably only gonna do it for 3 holes because they're gonna get drunk and like the rest of the ways, you know, whatever. But there's an inherent, you know, people just don't like being told what to do. You know, so you see a sign out there, it's just another thing telling you what not to do. And if you're paying a lot of money to be a member of a place, you don't want to be told what to do. It's your golf course, right? So I come at it now, you know, with any kind of video communication, we have to appeal to humanity, people's good nature. Think about the people behind you. We want every member to have the same experience. So that's my messaging, is to just get you act like a good person when you're out there for the guy playing behind you. And not to tell you how to play or how to practice. You know, I like to celebrate good behavior. I think that should be the goal. Just like when you're a superintendent, you're leading a team, catch people doing things really well and pull them aside and say, man, I love how you cleaned up that cart path after you put your mower back in the cart. You know, that detail is what separates us from the next club. So look for ways to celebrate that good behavior. Do the same thing with your members. You know, the blog doesn't all need to be negative. Find some positive messaging. Send out a positive reminder email like, hey, we've seen some really good improvement in ball marks, but we can do better, you know? So you know, give them a pat on the back once in a while. You know, I work with a lot of clubs want to do a video on how to best use their practice facilities. And we all know there's probably a best way to hit balls on a range tee and a not the best way, where somebody's just, you need to resod it afterwards. But early on in my career as a superintendent, I think I did one of those, hey, this is the best way to practice emails. And I think we had a sign at the tee, and I had a member pull me aside on the range, and he asked me. And he did it in a nice way. He said, do you know how much money I pay to be a member here? And he said, don't tell me how to practice. I'll do what I want. I was like, that's fair. I get it. You know, because at the end of the day, it's my job to fix it. And we're going to fix it. It's not a big deal. So I kind of loosened up on some of that stuff. I think you can really try to encourage, if you see somebody doing a linear divot pattern, celebrate how quickly that healed and send that out to your members. Man, somebody was doing an awesome job this weekend on that range. We appreciate this. You know, so come at it from that. Don't highlight the bad, because they just don't. That guy who's taken out a strip of sod is probably the same type that doesn't return her shopping cart, you know, or is the first guy up when the airplane lands, he's in the back of the plane, he's already running forward. You know, there are those types out there. You're not going to get that guy to do a linear divot pattern. So don't die on that hill. This is an example. I want to show this one. This is a ball mark video I did at Oakland Hills, I think last summer. One of the things I find very effective with any kind of video, when you can integrate superintendent golf pro, superintendent greens committee, way more effective messaging than if it's just a superintendent. So I almost always encourage a pair, like ham and egg in this thing. And Phil and John were great about this, but I want you to pay attention to how we message this. And you're gonna find there's a repeating, think about the group behind you, message to it.
The first thing I do is I come down, I stick it in, and I push forward. I come from the side, I stick it in, I push forward again. What we want to do is bring live tissue back into the depression. So about a total of 5-6 different times. Then I take our putter and just lightly tap it down smooth. Now you've left the surface perfect for the group behind you.
It is a living surface that we're playing on, and there's lots of play through the course of the day, and it's part of the player responsibility to help us with that surface throughout the round, out of respect for the golf course and respect for those playing behind you. It only takes a moment or two to find a ball mark that's yours, maybe even additional ball mark on the green. Go through the simple process of pushing it from the edges and then flattening out with the bottom of your putter. So we have a smooth and fast playing surface, and it can help us all make some more birdies.
We've grown the game, COVID's grown the game, and you know what we're seeing is more ball marks, less repaired properly. You know, part of the game is always leaving it better than you found it. And a big part of the game is repairing, you know, we're playing on a living surface and repairing that surface so it can recuperate. With everybody's help, we can really nail this down for the good of the game.
So a lot of positive messaging there. Leave it better than you found it. You know, and if your greens committee is in that locker room delivering the same type of message, like, you know, it means more coming from a member, which is why I encourage members to be in these. You know, somebody who's gonna be around for a while and isn't afraid to take the heat, because you need that person delivering that message in that locker room. You need that guy who sees a cart on a tee going up to him so you don't have to do it. Those are difficult conversations. A member will do that in a heartbeat if they're armed with the tools and the information. Authenticity, you know, I spend a lot of time, you know, I work with a lot of superintendents, and they're all different. Some are great on camera, some we've got to work with a little bit more. What I like about this one, and this is kind of a behind the scenes, they wanted to, this Orchard Lake Country Club, he wanted to really show his members what their aerification program entailed, a little behind the scenes look. Authenticity is important, because if a guy seems like he's reading off a script, it's probably not something you're gonna watch. It's not gonna engage you. Aaron does a great job, just kind of like talking to you like a normal guy, talking like you see him on the golf course. So I think it's a great example.
Today we want to show you guys everyone's favorite day of the year. It's when golf course superintendents all over the country get to poke holes in their greens. And we're going to tell you why we do it. Our number one goal is to manage the organic matter that these greens accumulate at the top edge. The new Pure Distinction bent grass is definitely an aggressive organic matter producer, and we've come up with some good ways now to manage that and try to mitigate the issues that come with it from a golfer and putting standpoint and how long it takes for them to heal it.
So a lot of clubs are you know, the USGA does a fantastic job with their videos, their video education. But members want to see their superintendent, they want to see their golf course, they want their logo in the corner, like there is this like branding thing that, you know, is a source of pride with clubs. So I do a lot of USGA style videos for clubs to educate membership. because it just means more when it comes from you. And it isn't some just kind of blanket video that's trying to make applicable to every situation. Those members only care about one property, and it's yours. And it just means a lot when it's coming from your team. Selling a project, the video is so good about selling a project, and this is a club in Florida I work with. I got about 3 or 4 members involved, along with a builder, contractor, and superintendent. And this is for new greens maintenance facility, and this is one of those, it was a 50-50 split, like it had to be done, but so many members were against the idea of spending more money. So this is a way we were able to control the message and sell this project. And this video sold this project. It happened.
One other question keeps on coming up, well, why are we building the Taj Mahal? Well, we're not. This is not a Cadillac, this is a Chevy, and it's about function, and it's not about flash.
There's a lot of cons to having your machines outside, especially something that's precision. You can't, like our ferry units and our greens mowers and everything, they have to be parked inside. If they get amount of rust on the bend knife between the bend knife and the reel, tomorrow they're not going to cut right, even though you checked them out last night.
We don't have enough room over here. We got these 2 tires together. Basically, the operator is supposed to go in between the tires, but the 2 tires are in between, so he got to climb. You don't have enough room over there. That door, it won't open, so these trucks only have 1 door.
The best way, if any kind of architecture project, anything that's like on the fence that you need pushed through, a video is a great way to do that. Identify your 3-4 main points, focus on those, tell that story, and then, in my opinion, the best way to distribute this is in a town hall like this. If a member wants to learn about that project, they need to come to the club and watch the video. Don't send that out on email, because what's going to happen, all those different clicks are going to watch it, and everybody's going to see it a little differently. And some people are going to see it as a threat, so they're going to be like, whoa, this is total propaganda. If you view it in front of everybody in one room, and you're available to answer questions afterwards, that's how you're going to sell a project. These work. I've seen renovations get passed because of videos we've done. I've also seen like new maintenance facilities, and it's a proud moment for me to just be a little part of that. I know there's way more happening, but it's just a tool to really help sell, change some minds, start some conversations. Houston Country Club was one I worked with. Andrew Green, you know, he's the hottest thing in golf right now, and some of the members didn't want to blow that golf course up. That superintendent had me come in and record Andrew's presentation, and I overlaid, you know, all his slides with it. He sat through and watched that video 40 times with members. Anytime a member wanted to come in and watch that, they had to come to the club, go to a room, and he would just sit there and watch it with them and answer any questions. I would do that versus send that out in an email. Again, it's just controlling that message. So, some tips, you know, video communications in particular, just be authentic, just be you, just talk. You know, I tell guys, it's unnatural to have a camera on you. Okay, go. I'm over here, talk to me. You know, just talk to me like I'm on the Greens Committee, you're educating me. Talk to me. The audio must be good. Nothing will get you to click off a video faster than bad audio. If you're outside next to a road, shooting this thing, and you hear cars going past or wind blowing, you just lost everybody. I would try to dumb it down a little bit, keep things kind of surface level. If somebody really wants to know, you know, particle distribution size, they can pull you aside. You know, like, cut some of that stuff out of there. Keep it short. A lot of my videos kind of average, like a year ago, about 3 minutes. I'm having more and more people ask for 90 seconds, 60 seconds. I would keep it under 2 minutes. That's the attention span. And again, include members, a Greens Committee member, your golf pro, your general manager. And it's a great opportunity. These videos are a great opportunity to showcase your staff, an intern, an assistant, because then they can take this years from now and use that in the boardroom when they're applying for a job, you know, for their next step. They have this as a resume tool. So think about including them. I'm going to skip this just for time, but I include, you know, seasoned staff, assistants, and I try to, I push for it, because these people can tell your story too. You know, this is a guy who's been in a club for 45 years, takes a lot of pride in that golf course. He's as critical to that golf course as the superintendent, in a sense. So we like to
I
include
take a lot of
staff.
pride in what I do.
I want to talk about trends I'm seeing in the shorter content. I'm getting asked to start doing reel style content, like that ball mark video at Oakland Hills. It was a 2-minute video. Adam, can we cut that down to 20 seconds? Like, these are legit asks that I'm starting to get from clubs. I need it to be 20 seconds. So I kind of settled with, like, I'm going to make your 2-minute video, and I'll do a cut down that's kind of like one of those Instagram reels or TikTok videos, and I'll pull like the best 20 seconds if you want to send that out. That's if social media kind of stuff, if you're doing some internal sharing, Instagram stuff like that, you know, more messaging is better. You know, repeat that message, different forms. So if maybe you catch their eye with that 20-second video, but they want to know more, they watch the whole 2-minute thing. This is kind of where we're going now. I mean, you look at any new song that's being done today, they're 2 minutes or less. They're short. They're short. It's kind of sad. I'm seeing a lot of superintendents start doing some in-house stuff. See a lot of guys. I talked to a guy at the National this year. He's doing member communications on CapCut, which basically like is an AI app that will take, you know, a collection of videos and make it a 90-second, you know, member update. So if you just want to keep this stuff really simple and do like a monthly update, you can do a tool like that. Newsletters, email updates are still hanging on. I think they're important for some of the big stuff. Just kind of, you know, campaign from a lot of different angles. The blogs have kind of flatlined, but I think they're going to start getting a little bit more traction as guys realize the importance. And I'm starting to see, you know, a lot of these maintenance facility open houses where your staff's there and their family's there and members can come in and kind of get to meet the people that they always drive past, you know, because the guy's on the mower. So those some of the trends that I'm seeing. So to kind of recap this thing, I would encourage you to kind of find your voice, and it takes some time, but just try to create a consistent tone. Remember to be seen and be heard when things are not good. Rely on facts and avoid emotion, and really kind of keep this stuff simple. It doesn't, you know your audience. Most of these people just want to go out and have a good time, want to kind of know what's going on, but they don't need the super deep dive on all this stuff. Keep it positive and try to include your staff because it's their story too. So just a reminder, you know, the message matters and how you say it matters. So a lot of times, how you say something is almost more important than what you say. So think about that. A little shameless self-promotion, you know, I do member communications, the permanent type stuff, Walmart videos, team recruiting videos, tournament coverage, construction renovation updates, all that kind of stuff. That's what I do now. So if I can ever help you or your club down the line, I'd appreciate the opportunity. And most of all, thank you. Thank you to the MGA, USGA, Pelham Country Club for hosting me today. This is my phone number, my contact email. if you want to pull me aside, I've got some propaganda I can give you today, but I appreciate the opportunity. Any questions before I wrap? Yes, sir.
You mentioned the AI app to shoot your own videos. What was the name of that?
It's called CapCut, and I think it's made by the same company that does TikTok. I've never used it. I edit all this stuff myself for now. But I think it's a great way. Like, I will not do, clubs ask me to do monthly updates. I don't do them. Because you're paying me a lot of money for an update that's only worth 30 days on average. Like, it makes a lot of sense to do some of this stuff in-house. Call me in when you want a professionally done permanent video that's going to last you 10 years. That's the kind of stuff I want to help you with. The monthly update things, I think can be done in-house. Or, you know, a lot of clubs have their own marketing people. They can help you out with that kind of stuff. Or I can consult with them and get them steered in the right direction. Yes?
What are your thoughts on kind of repeating messages from the past, how often you do that? It's always something that I feel like a lot of us struggle with where, you know, we've said this stuff before, but, you know, with new membership, or you just feel like you're repeating yourself, but, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
You want to repeat yourself. You know, like something like Ballmark, you're like, that should be a video that rolls out right as that first cart hits the first tee, first time in the year. That should be out ahead of time. Follow that up with the shorter 20-second version in season. You know, like send this stuff out. If you have a blog post about aerification from years ago, update that, roll that out again. You know, like right a week before you aerate, just so you know members have an idea of what to expect. They just want to know. They just want to know what's going on, what to expect, right? So I would avoid over communicating, because same with the 10 emails from your club every day. If you're putting a video out once a week, after a while it's going to lose its impact. So I know Pat Ryan suggested me for this. I did some videos for Pat last year, and I told him June, July, August. I think he put them all out in 1 week. And then the next week, members like, we love these, we want more. We don't have any more. So I would try to, you know, be strategic about it. Every 3 weeks would be a good time. You know, once a month I think is good. A video once a month, maybe a blog post, you know, in between that. You know, just be consistent with it. You know, kind of hit them with a bunch of different stuff. I think is good. But keep telling your story. This is your story, not the caddy. So that's all I got. Thank you. Got any questions for me? Pull me aside.